My guest this week is content marketing expert, top 100 marketing podcaster, and by his own admissions, a content creation machine, Mr. Ash Borland. And we're talking about content. What is content? What platform should I be using? And should I be using different content for different platforms? Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Broadcast with me, Craig Skelton. Join me every week while we're developing your knowledge to help you build a successful mortgage broker business. Following on from one of my previous podcasts with Emma Sherlock, Emma and I were discussing the fact that generally mortgage brokers don't tend to be too creative and good at creating content. So I thought, who better to get onto the podcast than the content creation machine, Mr. Ash Borland. And we're going to talk about content, what is content, the platforms for content, and should I be adapting my content for the different platforms. So welcome to the podcast, Ash. How are you?
Great, Craig. Absolutely brilliant, mate. Thanks for having me on.
No, I appreciate you being on the podcast, Ash. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule with your content making and the rest of it and your top 100 podcast and all the rest of it that I've sort of already done the intro about. So yeah, no, I really appreciate your time. And I think you'll give great value to the brokers who are thinking about becoming brokers or people think they're thinking about go self-employed as brokers. I think what you offer and what you do and sort of hearing about that today will be a big benefit for the brokers that are listening in. So yeah, much appreciated. So
that's brilliant.
Cool. First of all,
I'm really looking forward to it because you've had some epic guests on here. You know, you're they're all like people that I know as well. So it's great to finally I've nailed you down and said, get me on the show.
Well, you have had a few shout outs on the podcast as well. One I recorded yesterday. You got a shout out again on there. So I thought we need to get you on the podcast. Everybody's talking about you. So we need to get you on here. So I appreciate your time, mate. And like you say, you have been persistent about getting yourself on here. So thanks very much. So for those people that don't and who listen to the podcast and the subscribers, for those who don't know who you are, do you want to just give a bit about background about you and your journey in terms of what you do now and just a little bit of a journey so far?
Yeah, of course, mate. Absolutely. So my name's Ash. Obviously, you've introduced me. I am a content marketing coach. And so I help people build content, effectively clarify their marketing message, establish themselves as thought leaders, create creativity and consistency in their brands. Now I got into that. I'll give you the kind of cliff notes, very short version of it. But my original background was in performing arts. Singing and acting in London. And when I decided to leave that as a profession, I'll be really honest with you, I just couldn't hack it. So I would rather just come back to my humdrum life. After doing it, I was like kind of professional from a very young age. I got into property, so I got into estate agency through corporate, and then moved from there. Did that for about 3 years, and then moved into brokering and became a mortgage broker because I was like, well, I want to, if I'm going to do something, like it's a very lucrative job. It had a career prospect that I, as someone who didn't have a qualification, didn't have. I was like, I can actually build a very lucrative career helping people. It really appealed to me. So I got into brokering, and from doing that, kind of very long story short, I started making videos on how to, how to buy a house. It wasn't actually even how to get a mortgage. It was how to buy a house because of compliance, just said before. But I got into talking about how to buy a house, and I was one of the very first brokers to do this. There was a handful of us at the time. It was me, Gary Das, and a guy called Alex Kerr. Now, all three of us have gone on to do other things, but we were the very first guys really to make video content. This is quite a while back now. And I enjoyed it. I used to make videos every single day. And then slowly, as time progressed through, it turned out I was quite good at it. And it got me lots of business, and it generated tons of business, actually. But it also, what I didn't expect for it to do was it generated more interest from brokers than it did actually from the clients. The clients were interested, but the brokers was where the relationships were being built. And fast forward to now, 18 months ago, I set up my actual consulting kind of coaching business, and now I'm not a broker at all. I help people build their own content marketing strategies like I did for my mortgage business. It started off by helping only mortgage advisors because that was my niche and that's what I knew. And now I've worked with professional rugby players. I've worked with, I work with people all over, like the high level athletes. I'm working with a Paralympian. So like crazy how I'm making a video as a mortgage advisor like 4 years ago, brought me to where I am now. And like I say in the podcast and all that other crazy stuff, which isn't really relevant, but like, that's kind of me in a nutshell. Is I'm a performer turned broker turned marketing consultant.
What a journey! Like
Yeah.
honestly, mate, when you like look back at it in terms of you deciding however long, like you talk about that, you was a pioneer with videos. I talk a lot about videos now. People in my business and my brand as well. We talk a lot about creating videos and trying to get the brokers to become brave and get in front of the camera and talk about things you talk about every single day is quite difficult, but you saw that as a massive opportunity several years ago. So that's testament to you in terms of sort of seeing that. And that's because I think because you were at the forefront, then it's just helped you develop and create your niche. And like you said, Gary's gone different way, and as Alex. So you've all three of you have gone sort of your own sort of unique way. But if you look at what you're doing in terms of this, like the content that you give in, and like you say, from a compliance point of view as well, the stuff that you've been doing and the people that you work with, and clearly, yes, this is a podcast, but we do release this on YouTube as well. And the sort of the expression on your face, the smile on your face, just the way that you're reacting when you're talking about your journey and what you've sort of achieved, you clearly enjoy doing what you do, Ash.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm like, I get to play. Like, also, by the way, we had that client. I've got the best client. I've got you, mate. I was like, I haven't said anything about you. I was like, I've got rugby players. I've also got Craig. Craig's a legend. Yeah, I love it. Every day is. I remember I wake up and I literally do I'm like pinch myself. Like, am I really like? Is this my life? Like, am I doing this as a job? Like, because I literally love what I do. I loved being a broker. I loved helping people as a broker. That was the thing. I loved helping people, but I'm dyslexic. So the idea of compliance was fine, but the packaging of cases, making sure that they were all connected, like I just couldn't see the fine detail. So to me, I get to still see the broker with what I do now. It's really exciting. I get to still see the mortgage broker world from a distance, but by helping that world in my way. And I don't think I'll ever leave that industry. It's always got a little bit of like a soft spot in my heart. Like and it's lovely to see like what we're seeing now, like me and you doing this and the stuff we see online, like with videos and you saying like people wanting to do it. Like I remember sitting in a boardroom I worked in a company that was like semi self-employed, and they all laughed at me when I was doing video, so like I was like one of the very first kind of people to do it. And I kept saying to people like, this will be the future. I promise you. And I didn't believe that. I did believe it, but there were moments where I didn't. And so now like, what's gone on and the way the world has changed and how we are all in video, like it's exciting for me to see. So I think that's why I get excited, especially about your industry, because it's untapped soil. You know this with me and you, and we talk about your YouTube channel. I'm like, there's stuff here we can really do because we're early adopters to this phase. So anyone who's listening to this, you're a broker, like we're still very early doors. We're still probably 10 years away from establishing key players. And so we definitely, if you're listening and thinking this is it's too late now, it's absolutely not. Like it's absolutely not.
No, definitely not. And I do encourage, as you do, and I encourage brokers in my business to then just get out there and just do it. And I think do you think your performing arts background helped with your video stuff? Because I'm sure brokers are going to be sat here thinking, oh yeah, that sounds all really good, Ash, but you've got background of performing arts, you're natural in front of the camera and things like that. Do you think that helped?
Yeah. Yeah, it did. And I'm glad it did, because otherwise it was a wasted scholarship. But yeah, it was a very expensive wasted scholarship. But yeah, it did help. It massively helps. And it helped because I was not scared of the camera, and I'm not scared of talk. And I was trained in public speaking for 3 years. So, that was part of our courses and stuff we did was political and public speaking. So like how to use tonality to make people feel stuff. So yeah, it helps. But I can also say that it's not the be all and end all. Like anyone can learn that stuff. I was many years ahead of the average person because I'd had 6 years of intensive training, like as in like daily for 6 years. We would, from 8 o'clock till 6 o'clock, it was like of college. We would be there every single day. So it was intense. So I would say, yeah, it has helped. But at the same time, you've got people like Alex Curtis who kill it or crush it on podcasting and the delivery is amazing. Someone like yourself, your delivery, when we're doing your videos, your delivery, very, very good. And you've not all had professional training. No, exactly.
Not whatsoever.
I think but the delivery is very important, but the delivery comes with practice. That is the only way you get good at it. And not by practice. And this is something I'll say this. It's not by practice by, sorry if I go off on a spiral, but it's not by practice of like, and this is what brokers do. And I'm a part of lots of different, I'm part of Dan Reddish's group. I'm one of his guest coaches in his thing. So I know he's been on the show. Good guy. I love him to pieces. Like I say to his guys, they're not by recording something and looking at it and you critiquing it. It's by recording something and putting it out. You have to mortgage broker broadcast. You have to broadcast everything you're doing and you will get better because you will fail forward. You'll fail again and you'll look awkward and you'll sound bad and you'll sound this. And then eventually after like 100 videos, you'll probably sound semi-okay. And then
is
after
that the
100,
benchmark then, Ash? That's it. Once you get to 100, you're going to sound semi-okay. So
there's a cover.
The quicker I start, the quicker I'm get to the 100. So that's what Ash says.
Absolutely. So they're like in the content world, it's like 100 videos is the minimum benchmark, and 6 months. So people say all the time, 100 videos and 6 months consistent uploading. And when I talk about consistent uploading, I mean like we commit, like if you commit to one video a week on YouTube, for example, 6 months to gain traction, not gain world success, but gain an upward curve of like, this is where we're going. The minute you don't upload that week, you hit restart on that clock again, and we're going to go back to 6 months again. Like, and this is what it is: 6 months consistent uploading for traction, 100 videos to actually see any real momentum, and in the way you present. And I think that's the thing that one thing I was lucky with. You say about performing, I was lucky because I didn't have to worry about the presentation side of things. I just had to worry about the tech because I had no idea. Like no idea. It's funny if you actually are watching this on YouTube. Like my studio is like a spaceship. I couldn't even turn on a computer. Like I didn't have a clue. So that was my thing. Was tech. I had no idea. But if you're somebody who don't know about tech and don't know about performing, then it's a bit longer. But it's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
I think it's a really good point that you pick up on that, because if people are watching this and seeing your videos and on YouTube and the podcast, your own podcast show, and the guests you get on, and you look at, I'm sat here now looking at your setup, and I look at with your setup, it just looks unbelievable. The branding, the lighting, everything about it. But you've worked hard for that. But if you go back however many, and you look at when you first started out, you were just doing it on an iPhone. I think that people will sort of will understand that and think, actually, when you first started out, like, it's okay, Ash, you've got all the gear, you've got everything going on in your recording studio as it looks. But I think what people, and I've just got an iPhone, like I'm thinking I've only got an iPhone, or I've got nothing like that. You started out on an iPhone, didn't you?
Yeah, I had an iPhone. I had an iPhone 6S. It was well, the ones that used to bend because you put them in your pocket
Yeah.
and they'd bend a bit. So they were like slightly would curve around the shape of your leg as you had it longer. And the AUX cable, the AUX cable, like it didn't work. I'd obviously like broken it over the years or whatever. And it was very old. Would be lucky if it would record one video. It would record one video and then I had to recharge it. And I had that. And my very first videos, like I uploaded them, like I filmed them by propping it up against a coffee mug. Like I didn't have any. It's weird. Like I only have got good with tech and the gear in the last maybe year, the last year, up until that point, I knew nothing about it. Like I don't know much about, I do now. But that was a decision. And the reality is it a decision that you as a broker would need to make? No, not really. I wouldn't, me and you talked about before, like I wouldn't go too deep into the tech because it doesn't matter. My thing is self-indulgent and I like to learn about it. And also the more I learn about it, the more content I can talk about it. But if you've just got an iPhone, that's more than you need. You don't need a microphone. You don't need you don't really need a stand unless you can buy a stand if you want. But if you've got a phone, you've got all you need. You really do have all you need. And there's loads of free editing software. You don't even have to edit. A lot of my videos at the beginning, I didn't edit. My videos at the beginning are terrible. Like they're absolutely terrible. Like they're really not very good. And I even posted one today or yesterday. It was like a time hop from just a year ago. And I'm sat in my lounge because I had this built literally this time last year. So I'm sat in my lounge and I watched it back and I was like, wow, like how much that's changed. That's just in a year. So I wouldn't worry too much about the headphones, the microphone, the gear. Your phone is more than enough. Unless you work with me, then I'm going to do it.
I'm nowhere near as bad as you in terms of the gear and stuff like that. But
you have so much gear. Don't say that. You're worse than me.
I'm not worse. I don't have all the branding and the TV behind. I can hopefully one day I can get anywhere close to you with the gear and stuff like that. I've got no, I think I like you, when I'm decided to do something, I will investigate, I will look into it, and like a mic and stuff like that is
you've got an expensive Elgato green screen. People don't know what that is, but behind you is an Elgato green screen, which is what I have down here, which I never use. They're really expensive, so don't tell me that you're not got any gear. They're a proper, that's what all the top YouTubers use. So it's very good.
I just love it because you can scroll it down and scroll it back up again. I think it's not a permanent thing. That's what I love about that that particular green screen. But you don't need a green screen. Just my preference of green screen. So all you need is an iPhone, and it's the content that's more important in it. It's not about the gear. It's actually the content that's the most important bit.
Yes. Oh my gosh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. Like what you say, there's loads of nuances. Like I always love this term, like you can't polish a turd, and that's awful as it sounds, but you can roll it in glitter. But the reality is, if you can have all the bells, all the whistles, all the crazy stuff happening, but if your content is not valuable, people just won't watch it. And then another thing with content, just for your listeners to understand, so this is mortgage specific. Bear in mind that your content is it's not going to get a lot. Me and you spoke about this before, but it's not going to get a lot of views. It's not going to get a lot of people watching. It's not going to get a lot of engagement. And the reason why is that doesn't mean it's unsuccessful. It's just the nature of what it is. You're in mortgages. People consume, there's either education or entertainment. Entertainment content is what we normally measure ourselves against. We're like, if we look at this guy on YouTube or this guy on Facebook or this guy on TikTok, they're doing so well. I can do that. And you're like, yeah, but they are entertainment-based content. You're education-based. Your job as a broker is purely just to show up every single day. That's all you're there to do. So the people who need to hear it will hear it. You're not trying to entertain. And I think that's where I see a lot of people go wrong. And I think that's where TikTok has caused quite a bit of problems. Is there are a lot of brokers who are doing very well. I won't say some of their names, but there's a very big broker who I know doing very well on TikTok. But the content doesn't drive him leads because it's not about that. It's an entertaining, funny thing. People watch it to laugh, but they don't actually get in touch. So you want to make sure that you don't be upset when like 3 people watch your video, because if they watch that whole video, they're 3 right customers for it. Do you know what I mean? That's something people they get disheartened by it really quick. So if you are thinking about doing that, the value of the content, just because it's good content, still not going to be mega numbers. It's quite.
I think you're absolutely right, and I totally agree with that, because I think that's something where, as a as human beings, as creatures that we are, if we're putting something on our personal Facebook page and nobody likes it, or we just get one like or two like, we take that personally, like, and it does have an effect on how we behave and how we interact with that platform moving forward, and all those various things, and it's how we feel. If we don't feel as though people are liking our stuff that we put from a personal point of view, I think from a business point of view, and you have to keep it very, like, for me, I keep it very distant, like, with each other. I'm not a person that posts on social media from a personal point of view, but I do from a business point of view. And I, like, my mindset is that I do it, and like you say, I'm not sat thinking, oh, I've got no likes, I've got one view or anything like that. I'm just putting it out there to be educational, because like you said, going back to it, these things take time. They just take time to build up, and you take time to build your audience, and you will get that audience, absolutely, if you're doing the things that we're going to talk about. But if you're putting it out there and you're actually being brave enough to do it, you're just growing your audience. It's what I love about the podcast, what I love about YouTube and social media is that, and we talk about this, is that once you've done it, it's out there. And we, like, the videos that I create and we create, like, you help with my creation and the editing, once those are out there, then they're out there forever. It's there. So when you're doing education for the clients and you're talking about what a remortgage is, or what a loan to value is, or what this, like, all the things that mortgage brokers talk about day in, day out. So they should be good at it. All we're talking about is putting a camera in front of them to talk about it. So they'll talk a great presentation of what remortgaging is and the benefits of why you should remortgage and all those things. Then as soon as you put a camera in front of somebody, like, oh, I can't talk about that. Whereas they talk about it day in, day out. But going back to my point is that it's like I get like the podcast that I'm doing, like, from this point of view, with 22, 23 shows recorded now, and the videos we've done, it would, like, we're only sort of like week 4, week 5.
Yeah.
But already I'm getting people messaging me, commenting, saying thank you. So, like, I got one, like, yesterday was, thank you so much for doing the videos. Really appreciate it. Keep doing it. I learned so much from it. I'm thinking about becoming a self-employed broker. I watch your videos every single week. Like, that broker may never ever join my business, or we never ever work together. But if I've helped him make a decision to be a mortgage broker, fulfill his career and his career path and his goals and things like that, I'm not being funny, I feel bloody good about that, Ash. I think that's something that so people think, like, oh, I'm just doing the videos for leads, I just want clients, I want things like that. Yes, you will get those things, but you've got to put them out there first of all. But people might not buy into you first of all. But I think the more you do it, the more you're going to generate and build that trust with the clients. Is that fair to say?
It's spot on. That's a brilliant pitch there for coming to work for me. But it's one of those. It's brilliant. No, you're spot on. The reason why, this is just to highlight with what you're saying, the reason why me and you have worked together for a long time now, and why we moved our relationship to a different level, and the clients I have that have kind of lasted a long time, is that they've grasped what you just said. That is what's really important. What you just said about the idea that it's not about leads first. Leads are second. It's about brand building, but it's also about, if you have that knowledge to give, every video you put out there might get, say you put a video out there and it gets 6 views, 5 views, which is standard on YouTube, by the way, for a new channel. Like, that's kind of a reference. But as I said to you before, if like me and you with your channel, we were talking about, like, when I became a broker, that as a dyslexic guy, the channel that we're creating, that you're building, that is what I needed. And I would have watched every single video you had. I would have just gone through them all. That's what that is. That's what that is. That's what that is. So, and you're already getting people reaching out to you, because there are lots of people who learn a different way without just dropping a CMAP book on the desk and go, there you go, read it. Like, it doesn't work that way. And it doesn't teach you any of the stuff you need to know. So that's the thing that's really good, is that it's this idea of, like, and I love it, it's that Zig Ziglar quote of, if you give everyone everything they want, you will get everything you want. And so, with you want to be this trusted advisor. We've got this cool stuff going on. That's because you're giving without expectation, and stuff will come. And that's what brokers have to get, have to understand. Brokers, all of you guys, not all of you, but a lot of you have got this feast and famine approach of like buy leads. If it doesn't, like, I have got guys that come on the call, they'll go on like a discovery call with me to work with me, and they're like, oh, well, can you guarantee? I'm like, no, I can't. You need to go and buy. No one can. Go and buy some leads if that's your case. But you'll come back to me in 2 years' time when all my clients are still doing it. You have to really, it's reframing this idea. I was editing your thing about buying leads. That's why I was thinking of that same thing. It's just not like that's the problem. And it seems to be, it's in every industry, but it's very rife in the mortgage broker industry, of this idea of very short-term thinking. Absolutely fine. But if you are one of the brokers who has the capacity to be long-term thinking, like I am, like I was, like you are, then you can flip the game on its head completely. Because while everyone's fighting over the scraps of the Facebook video or whatever it may be, and or like the events or whatever it may be, you are playing the long game of YouTube, authority building, long form assets. And so that what happens is 5 years later, it feels like, and we've seen this happen. Alex Kerr is a very good friend of mine. Alex Kerr appeared out of nowhere on YouTube. He didn't appear out of nowhere. He focused on the right things while everyone else was focusing on the little short-term stuff. So I think that is one mistake I see brokers make all the time. If one person listens to this and goes, that's the type of thing I think I could play long-term, then do it, because you'll win.
Cool. And that, they say, that gives the brokers that are listening actual reassurance that it is worth doing it, Ash, because I think like they don't have I think one thing that you have to be as a mortgage broker is be persistent. You have to have the persistency, whether that's doing the content, whether that's doing your branding, whether that's servicing your clients, whether that's sort of trying to find that best deal for that client who's been turned down by 10 other lenders. You have to be persistent. So that's what you have to be. So if you're a good broker, you tend to be persistent. You don't give up at the first hurdle and go, right, move on to the next, because you're not a good broker. You won't build your brand that way. It's just the same thing with the content and the branding and the marketing that you're doing, the digital marketing, because that's all you're doing. You've got to be persistent with us. You're not going to win at the first hurdle. You're not going to sort of get 10 leads from the first sort of Facebook or whatever you do, like post or whatever you're doing. You're not going to get it from day one. You've got to play the long game, and you're absolutely right. And I 110% agree with you. And that's something that I do talk about with brokers that I speak to, that if they're choosing to do this and this career, this life-changing career, so brokers who've never been brokers before, never done mortgage before, it's life-changing career. You've got to be looking at this long-term. It's not a short-term career. It's not a short-term, because you're building your clients, you're building your brand, you're building your content all that time. But you will build it. You're continually building. Like you talk about you're building this career on. You tell the story far better than I do on terms of the rocks and things like that. That's like what you're building it on.
Yeah. Would you want me to explain that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I teed you well there, mate, because I didn't want to steal your thunder.
No, it's right. Yeah, no. So I believe in this idea of you should build your you talk about the foundation. The wise man builds his house upon the rocks. Yeah. So when I was a kid, anyone who here is around, I'm 30. So anyone who's got like around 30 to kind of 40, I don't think they do it anymore because they removed a lot of that songs from school. But there used to be a hymn that we used to sing at school called "The Wise Man Builds His House Upon the Rocks," and it says, "The wise man builds his house upon the rocks, and the foolish man builds his house upon the sand." This is when the rains come down and the floods come up. The house on the rocks stood firm, but the house on the sand went flat, which actually went splat. It's like this song. But the reason why I say that, and it's really everything, my brain's very weird, and I just relate things to different things from my childhood and stuff. I believe you should build your house upon the rocks. And the reason why I say that is building your brand where it is solid and will stand the test of time and has what we call, if you guys are in investments, if you are, like, it's, compounding interest. The problem with a lot of social media, so social media specific, is it is building your house upon the sand, because what you're doing is you have to consistently feed the beast. You have to every day. You're only as good. It's like, the old sale, you're only as good as the last sale you made. Everyone knows that. It's exactly the same when it comes to social media, is you're only as good as the last post you made. And the last post you made once you've made that post, well done, you've got to do it again and again and again and again. And the problem with this is when you turn it off, when you stop, guess what? It stops. Whereas if you take a step back and you start to build your house upon the sand, the rocks, which is, in my opinion, search-based content. So that's podcasting, blogging, so website building, and which is what Alex Curtis does incredibly well. So Alex, so it's website, blogging, and podcasts and YouTube. You are building your house on a solid foundation of like solid rock. And what that means is it might take longer to build, but that content that you make might get 6 views now, but it's there forever. So you don't have to keep saying, what is a first-time buyer mortgage? What is, you don't have to keep doing that, because you can just say to someone, there you go. Or someone might search it and it appears. And what's really amazing about this is if you did this for 5 years, this is where what people don't get is the compounding effect. And this is with everything. Everything is a numbers game when it comes to content, when it comes to business. The way I see things, everything is a numbers game. If I can do one a week, that's 52 videos a year. If I can do 52 videos a year, you're looking at 104 in 2 years. That means that if I have 104 YouTube videos on that, but I could also put them on social as well, I'm now ahead of my competitor who, say, for example, it's me. It's like Craig, you're doing YouTube. I'm not. If I'm not doing YouTube, I've uploaded a video a week to Facebook. Actually, if we looked at our equity, our brand equity in regards to Google and search and business, I'm literally at zero, because no one knows the 104 videos I've made, because unless I get time hop, if I'm lucky enough on Facebook to get time hop. Whereas the other person has got a library of every single thing they've said. This is how we look at people like, the joke of this in your industry, in like this world, is the biggest financial kind of authority is Martin Lewis. And whether you love him, hate him, think he's an idiot, think whatever it is, and that's cool. The reason the guy is so well known at the beginning was he blogged. The Money Saving Expert was a blog. And he documented all of his things on a blog. What does that mean, though? That means that when someone comes to look for him, his digital authority is huge. And all of these advisors go, he doesn't know what he's talking about. No, he might not know what he's talking about, in your opinion. But you didn't document in a place that was always discoverable on a solid foundation what you know. So when we look at Martin Lewis, he's got a blog that's got 5,000 pages. That guy comes across as an expert. And that's what we're missing. That's what all of us seem to miss the point. This is why seeing YouTube, for me, for YouTube as a video guy, I just see YouTube as a catalog. Think of it as your body of work. I have one client now who uses Instagram. It's not very good for this, but we're moving to YouTube now. But he uses Instagram. When someone asks, why should I use you over someone else? He goes, can you just go and check out my Instagram?
Right.
Or why should I pay you a fee? The guy down the road doesn't charge. And then he's like, go and check out my Instagram and tell me what you think. And then they always come back and go, yeah, I see why. Because he uploads a video every single day. And if you go onto his Instagram, scroll. Like, he uses it as a body of work. Now, it's not the best. We're trying to get him to do it to YouTube because it's discoverable as well. But that's what you're thinking about. It's no different. You summed it up and I loved it. It's no different than you building your back book of clients. It's exactly the same. If you get asked a question, why, and think about this as this is what I say to clients about the foundation. Then if you know it, someone messages you and says, I'm a first-time buyer, I don't know what to do. Someone like someone emails you, or you see a client, say you do a face-to-face appointment or an over-the-phone appointment. How cool would it be that you can then go, from your situation, we've spoken about it, here are 3 videos that I've made that I think would really help you. Here are the links. So, here are the links.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. No advisor would do that. But imagine doing that. And imagine having 100, like, you could do that. Imagine like with yours, the videos that we're building, as time goes on, you could literally go, I'm really glad that you want to become a mortgage broker. Here are the 3 videos that, from what you said, here are 3 videos I think you would like. And you would have them in sections. You do it yourself. First time buyer, remortgage, buy to let. And what does that do? That creates more engagement with that person. Because if that person clicks on the video and watches you after they've then seen you or they've spoken to you, you're reinforcing this idea. of, wow, this guy's great. You can also mail it out on a mailing list. There's so many things you can do when you build it on a solid foundation. You're just making social media content. I personally will go as far as to say, I think you're just wasting your time.
Right. Okay.
Which is a bit aggressive.
No. That's fair to say, given the sort of like with where you're at. And to be fair, she's absolutely spot on with what, if the brokers will listen to this as I am thinking, wow, like, yeah, that's the whole thing, is like creating that content to then go, right, there's 3 videos, this is your situation, there's 3 videos of, and then you're going to get buy-in, you're going to get trust. They're not going to haggle over, well, I'm charging you a 495 fee, or yeah, him down the road charges 295. Go and see him down the road then, kind of thing. They're not going to haggle over your fee and things like that, because they're bought into you on what you're doing, and they're trusting with you with a big decision that's happening in their lives right now. So what better way to do it? It's easier as well, isn't it? From a broker's point of view, it's easier as well. And if you get somebody contacting saying, this is my situation, so to them, like, these are the 3 videos, watch these 3 videos. It's great. It's easy. It's like, you've done the hard work behind, you've put all this effort and invested all your time and effort to create these videos. It's then get the clients to look at that and, like, obviously you using those to then your own benefit. Then you're just investing from the start to make your life easier long term.
I'm working with somebody at the moment, which we're kind of going through at the moment, where we're effectively building a first appointment without being there. So,
right,
like, it's the videos, just so you know, this is what this is. And effectively it's just a initial fact find, but it's a video explainer initial fact find. So they can fill it in, but there's a video at the top that explains why we need this, explains why we need this, explains right now. They're doing it because they're an influencer through social, and they do get a lot of leads. They were like, we're getting too many leads. How can I deal with it? So we're building this out for them. And it's a really great way, because actually it's automating the initial upfront process. By the time that person gets, the reason why I do it is they get them through social. They're going through social because that's where their main thing is. It comes through social. I know I said don't do social, but that's like a sweeping statement. But like, it goes through social. They go onto the link. They book the link. They fill out the initial fact find. They also get to watch these videos of who this person is. And then by the time they meet them on a Zoom call, because I'm a big advocate, by the way, of brokers doing Zoom appointments, not phone appointments, if you are going to do video, because you shouldn't underestimate the power of, like, me jumping on a call with my client, a new client, like a prospect, like right now, just as marketing, and my background and my videos looks exactly the same as the way they see me when they watch me. I had a podcast interview yesterday, and he was like, mate, this is so surreal watching you now when we're chatting, because I watch your videos, and and so that is very powerful. So if you use videos, then all of a sudden you're on Zoom and you look the same as the person they watch, you're in an automatic authority place. So as a broker, if you're going to do, I'm a big believer of Zoom over everything. I don't remember the last time I took a phone call. Like Zoom, like ever. Like, I haven't done it since the beginning of COVID. I don't take phone calls. Like, Zoom all the way, because you have a better connection. You can record the appointment if you want to, because it allows you to look back. You go, oh, what did they say? They said that. And it has such a big visual authority to you that is awesome. The beauty of it also, by the way, is if you say something really good in it, if you recorded it, you say something really good, you can crop out your bit so you can only see you and you're explaining it. You can even make content from it. It's crazy.
And that's the thing, is I get that and I understand that, thinking, and that's the thing you should be able to do. Like, right, that's great, I recorded that, let's clip that out, and this if this is your scenario, this is the answer to the question, kind of thing. So it is. And I think with brokers being brokers, they'll be sat here thinking, this sounds all great, Ash, I'm really liking this, but creating video, doing podcasting, and I get this question, so I know this is something that comes up time and time again. But I've got compliance breathing down my neck. How can I do a podcast? How do you get your podcast through compliance? How do you And so that's something that I know I've wanted to talk about with someone like yourself, because that's one thing that I do get thrown back at me, is like, well, how do you get compliance to check your podcast before you do your podcast?
Yeah.
Or how do you get compliance to do your video before you do your video? So do you want to explain a little bit about that from a compliance
Yeah.
point of view, Ash? Because you can wear a compliance hat. I've seen it, and
Yeah.
I know it's there.
Well, it's because I think you used to know know of my dad. My dad was head of compliance for
Yeah.
Hart, Just Mortgages, and then he went over to like be a training director. But once a compliance man, always a compliance man, for Connells. So he was a training director there. So when I first started making videos, my dad, so anyone who doesn't know, is a guy called Mike Borland, but he was like, he put me, he effectively, like, I was, I didn't live with him or anything like that, but he came and he was like, look, you need to, if you're going to do this, he didn't think it was a good idea. He was like, I don't think that's a good idea, what you're doing. He said, I think you're going to get shot down by compliance. He said, but if you're going to do this, you need to know exactly what you can and cannot say. And so I just got obsessed with it because if you want, he said, because once, and he was really good with this. He said this, obviously now he's retired. I can tell you that thing, but he was like, if you play within the rules, you can push the rules and bend the rules. But if you break the rules, they're going to come down on you like a ton of bricks. He was like, on any place. So I became obsessed with compliance and how you can make it work. The most important thing when it comes to compliance, first of all, is unless you give advice, this is the two things to understand across the board. No matter what your network says, guys, like, this is my thing. Like, obviously, first of all, ask for permission. So ask for forgiveness, not permission. That's first of all, because 9 times out of 10, they're not looking at your Facebook video. Don't worry. But to kind of play within the rules, don't do any call to actions. If you do a call to action, then you must, and a call to action being a call to action to your service. So a call to action being like, subscribe to my channel, that's not a call to action. That's fine. But if it's a call to action of get in touch, the moment you say, can you come and get in touch with me if you need advice, that has to be signed off. That has to be signed off. Your decision, whether you want to make it signed off or not, that's your decision. But from a compliance point of view, that does have to be signed off. So the trick with that is don't do call to actions. That's the real easy one. Don't do call to actions. It doesn't have to be worried. Then the other thing is advice. Don't give advice, give balanced arguments. So as long as something is balanced, then it's fine. So I say to people all the time with this, and I say this all the time, the pros and cons to using a mortgage advisor. That is a balanced video because I'm also giving you the cons. And I get brokers all the time. This is where brokers have to reassess that. They're like, why would I say that? I'm just slagging myself off. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not. Like, I have this, you're not. Like, if you do 3 pros and 3 cons, this is balanced. That's absolutely fine because you're no longer like, you're not saying brokers are great, brokers are great, brokers are great.
Yeah,
you're saying,
exactly.
This is the reason. Now, the beauty of this stuff is it's actually a like an influence principle where if you also show a full balanced, this is a little like trick for you guys. If you show a full balanced, rounded kind of concept, people will trust you so much more. Like I say to people all the time, what is a con of using a broker? You charge a fee. Say it. The moment you say it in the video, the con is if you go to the bank, they don't charge you a fee, but I will charge you a fee. Straight away, they get to the end of that video and contact you. They've already been told you charge a fee. So there's no, well, you watch the video and it's a con. No one will question it. They'll just be like, okay. So that's a really important thing is pros and cons and balanced information. And then the kind of final thing with it. So you've done the kind of no call to action and then balanced information. The other thing though, with compliance is unless you are talking about specific mortgage stuff, which 9 times out of 10 is not something that anyone is going to be interested in. It doesn't matter. And so what I mean by that is talk about the buying process, talk about and slotting the mortgage into that is part of it. But 5 ways to find the house you want makes you, and I've watched some stuff about this. If you talk about stuff around the buying process, you can put call to actions on that, by the way. You can talk about whatever you want with that. You can say, come on, book an appointment with me. I used to call it a ready-to-move appointment. Come on, book a call if you want a ready-to-move appointment. Not a mortgage appointment, a ready-to-move appointment. What does you get in the ready-to-move appointment? Well, a ready-to-move appointment is understanding what you want to do and how you want to buy a house. But one of the questions would be, do you need a mortgage? As in on the booking form. Yes, I do. Okay, so I know you need a mortgage, so you're a potential prospect. So you can work around it as long as you don't give advice and you use the word mortgage. And the language you use, by the way, is very, very, very important. You must is one. You shouldn't say must. You have to. we recommend. You can't even say that. It's literally things like there are potential options. You have to think about it. And the best way I say to people is just get used to saying those patterns. Now I really struggle because now I'm not in a regulated environment anymore. And I'll watch a video and be like today I just did a video and it's like the best podcasting platform. And I was like, but it's not the best. There's like 5 different other options. But I can say that now, but I'm still in my head, like, because I've got so obsessed with it, I can't really say, well, because at the end, I was like, at the end of the video, I go, there are other options available. You can, and I'm like, I don't have to say that. But I think also if you follow the compliance side of things on your gut, you'll have a good video because they are compliant. Compliance is there to help you. That's what my dad used to say. He said, it is there to help you. It's there to guide you. It's there to stop you from being caught out. If you follow compliance as a guideline for a framework, it will actually make your videos really good because they have to be explained well. They have to be said in the right way. But 9 times out of 10, by the way, none of your networks require you to get them submitted, like require them to be signed off. I can tell you that right now. But it was something I can tell you that straight away. But one thing I will say, and this will make sense to you, Craig, and it makes sense to all of you guys listening. It doesn't make sense to anybody else when I talk about this outside of mortgages. Santander do not ask for the bank statements. But if you send them the bank statements, they're going to look through the bank statements. It's exactly the same thing with your videos. This is exactly the same thing. And in Santander, and we all have it. I remember Colin Hammond was my BDM. I don't know if anyone remembers Colin Hammond. He was my one down south. And he'd be coming in and be like, why did you send the bank statements? And it's exactly the same thing. If you don't have to send them the video, like, so unless you don't send them, just don't send them. Like, if it's not, if it doesn't fall into a call to action, it isn't advice, it's that, don't send them the video. It's as simple as that. But the moment I had clients I've had people, not even clients then, it was friends who would be sending a video, 4 things you need to know when buying a house. I was like, what? And then the compliance come back and go, it's not compliant. I'm like, it's not relevant. It's not even needed to be compliant. But the thing is, these people are going to look for faults because that's their job. So don't send them. It's the bank statement thing. That's the biggest one. Don't send them unless it falls into those categories. That's my long-winded answer.
No, I have no problem going off on a tangent, because I go off on a tangent all the time, but that was totally relevant. And I think it's trying to put the mindset out. And I think the one little bit in there that was actually the golden nugget of doing it is that you sort of said that you'll get habits of saying things in certain ways. So like when I do my videos, it's the pros and cons. It's like, these are the benefits and these are the issues. These are the benefits, these are the issues. Yeah. It's just very natural. Like, and you will get into that way and the habit form of talking. It's the old sort of saying of 7 to 21, do something 7 to 21 times. You will form a habit. You will form a habit.
Oh, you've just done that video. Like you just in the video I've just been editing up, which is the one about the buying leads. Like you're a brilliant. I think I would say actually watch your videos as a great example of how you do it, because you are actually probably one of the best people. All your videos are balanced. So like the buying leads one was really interesting. When I was editing it, because you give all the pros to buying leads, but you yourself don't think you should buy leads, but you give all the pros at the beginning. Like, and there's like a lot of them. It's like, do this, you could do this, you could. And I was like, wow, like there's a lot of reasons. And then you come in afterwards and say, but I myself don't think that I would do this because of this reason and this reason. And that's a very balanced stuff, because you haven't gone in and gone, I think this is really, really good. Like, I think this is really, really bad. And then at the end but there are some pros to it. So your videos are a brilliant example. Like for people who are listening to this, if you want to know a way to do a compliant video, look at Craig's YouTube channel or look at his Instagram, LinkedIn and stuff, because all your videos are very compliant.
And do you know that all that is just, what I'm like? I'm very process driven. I have to have a process. All I do is have an agenda, follow the agenda, and then obviously it's then becomes habit forming to then you get natural with it. But it's the same case of doing a first appointment. When I did a first appointment, I had an agenda to follow. It was like, do this, now do this, now do this, now do that. It's just the same thing with the video. So it's not, this is the thing with like the advisors, and I am so pro. I understand why people don't do videos because of the time, they come comfortable out of the comfort zone and that sort of thing. But I go back to them and say, at some point over the past few years, you didn't know how to do a mortgage appointment. You didn't know how to do it. You had to find your own process, your own style, your own way of doing it. But you had to do it because that was your job, and you had to, like, it's something you had to do. It's the same, but like now, you're in your comfort zone with first appointment. It will follow the same script, the same structure. You don't need a fact find to follow that. You'll literally get all the questions and say all the things because you've formed the habit of doing it. It's the same thing with videos. Once you've started doing it, and the more you do it, you won't need that agenda anymore because it will just come off the cuff, and you'll just record it, and you'll record it very well and go, do you know what? There's no editing in that one now. There's no editing in that one. And like I say, and you're creating content that's compliant because you're in your head, you know that there's no call to action. We're not talking about 95% deals with Santander or whatever the case may be, which is what everybody else is talking about, which customers don't care about at all whatsoever.
No,
they don't care who's got the best 95% deal or who's doing this or who's doing that right now. They want to know answers to their questions of, well, what is an SVR? But what is the process about remortgaging? That sort of thing you're talking about is great. Of walking through a first appointment, like, that's great. The clients know what to expect. They go into an appointment with a mortgage advisor into the unknown, and mortgage brokers, being mortgage brokers, love to baffle people with science and jargon and all the rest of it. No, we need to. That's gone. Like, let's reverse that whole thing, and clients need to be informed and know what they're going to go into. And that's what customers want to know, because if they go into it knowing what to expect, they'll get more out of it. You'll get more out of it as a broker, and it will be a lot easier appointment and a quicker appointment and an easy discussion because everybody's prepared for what's going to happen.
Absolutely. I would actually say, to you saying about the appointments, I'd actually say if you're a broker and you're not wanting to do video, I remember David Sharpson's a good friend of mine, and I asked him why does he make videos, and he said, because I don't need to pay for my kids. He said, it's my job. He was like, it's my job. I have to make videos. He was like, because if I don't make videos, I'm not lead genning. That's it. It's as simple as that. Now, one thing I would say, so I would say that if you're a broker, you should be making videos. I don't think it's a matter of if I should or shouldn't. I think you should, because we are moving more and more and more to a video world where in 10 years' time, every company will have video. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. And so, I felt that way 5 years ago when I sat in that boardroom, and I knew it was, and people didn't believe me then. It's moved quicker and quicker and quicker. And 10 years' time, it will be. 10 years' time, we'll have chief content officers in these massive companies who their entire job is to make sure that the content strategy is right. We are there. People buy content. It's what happens. So I would say for you guys, for listening, one thing I would do, if you're a new broker, you don't know what you want to do, because the great thing about content, the way I believe it is, you should use your content to reinforce your skills, not go off and make. So that's how I ended up actually making videos at the beginning, was because I'm dyslexic. I made a joke about the thing. Because I'm dyslexic, I struggle to read and retain. So I can read, but I struggle to read and retain. So how I would study was I would go through my book, my CF, I was CF1 and CF6. So I'd go through my book, and then I would make a video on the things in the book. So I'd read the book, make the video on the book, edit the book. We could edit the video because now I'm listening again and again and again and again, and then I would post it. I only did it purely to learn. It was, and if I did a bit a day, every day, compound. Again, I talk to you all the time, it's about 1%. Everything in my believing is about compounding. So it's about doing it over a year. What happened was I was learning. People were looking as well and thinking, gosh, this guy knows a lot of stuff. I didn't know a lot of stuff, but I was learning and I was visually using it. So what I would say for someone with you guys is I would actually record my first appointment. I would you said you have an agenda. This is what I would break down the agenda. I've never done this before, so it's quite cool. I'd break down your agenda of a first appointment, the perfect first appointment. So like, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? All of that. And I'd break it into videos, small chunks, small 2.5 minute, 3 minute videos. This is this. We're explaining. Then we're going through the fact find. We're explaining what this is. We're explaining what this is. Do the whole first appointment. Plan it. record it in sections, record it like a role play, but not like you're doing it as if you're explaining it to somebody.
Yeah.
You do that, you will have a solid first appointment, because you'll also have a load of videos that also will reinforce that if someone watches that video and then they come and see you, and this is what people don't get, if they come and watch that video and then they see you and you do the same thing, this is where we call personal brand ecosystem. It's about physical and digital identity. The two of them match up, which means your trust factor goes through the roof, because all of a sudden, if you're saying the same thing I've seen you say when you watched you, they're going to be like, wow, this is great. So I would probably go through my entire first appointment, that this your agenda, and we all have those agendas. If you don't, jot them down, make them. You know, the joke you make, you have the little joke you make at this point and the thing you say at that point, and film it and edit it. And that can be your first, realistically, from a first appointment, half an hour first appointment, you could easily get 10 videos out of that. And that will secure, and then what that does is secures you up as better. It makes you better at your job. And then this is what I'd say with content, think about how it makes you better at your job. The next thing then is, okay, I want to learn about buy to let. Say I want to learn about limited company buy to let. That's something I'm weak on. Okay, what can I do? Well, I'm going to make a video series on 5 things you need to know about limited company buy to let. Do you know about it? No, I don't, but I'm going to research it. I'm going to do it. Guess what? By the time you've finished, edited, and done that, you will know about limited company. But it's a great way for CPD and also brand assets that will generate you leads. And by the way, just so you know, compliance, your networks will class it as CPD. They class it as CPD because it's research. So you can use research and filming. I have one of my clients who literally every video he makes is CPD. Every video he makes.
Wow.
He logs it at the end. So thinking of ways to use it is quite a cool way.
Definitely. And to be fair, I've never thought of it that way at all. Like I've thought about like dissecting it up and things like that, but then using it for CP, and the more you do it, like you're learning. It's great to hear that bit about you're learning with the CF1 and CF6 of doing the videos, because what a great way to learn. It made you learn, and that's what it does. And like the other podcast that I do, the Mortgages, Money and More podcast, which is more about is to like advice from a consumer point of view. No advice on there. Just so we're clear, there's no call to action and no advice on there. So I'll rewind that a little bit there. But no, in terms of the conversations that I have, it's then the person that edits it, and she does a great job at editing, but she comes back and says, I've learned so much about green mortgages. I've learned so much about this. I've learned so much. And it's just because she's editing and listening to it, but that's the same for everybody else. It's sort of, it will sink in more if you're doing that, the repetitiveness and listen to that thing time and perfecting it and the rest of it. And that's the same with the first appointment. You will perfect your first appointment by going through that process. You
do first appointment. Like for me, it would be, my first things would be first appointment, protection appointment.
Yeah.
That would be my first 2. First appointment, protection appointment, and then like the home buyer, because that's what would be my first 2, and I'd nail them down. I'd not so much. You can script them if you want, but spend time, nail them down, and you will be so good at it. Because you go into patter, you'll say the same things over and over again. And one of my clients, and Nish, he does daily 1-minute videos, and I said to him, I was like, I said this would happen. I said, when you do this, and he's done it now for a year, and I said, never missed a day pretty much. And I said, when you do this, you'll be super knowledgeable by the end. And he said to me a couple of days ago, he was like, mate, I don't know how. He said, I can walk into a room now and people will say this, and I'll go, yeah, that's that, and that. And I remember it. I remember knowing nothing about mortgages, doing my qualifications. And then I remember sitting in a room. This is a bit like building your business for the business you want later. I'm just sitting in a room with a load of brokers who've been doing it for many years. And we were talking about something, and they said about buy to lets. And I said, well, what about, they were like, well, why should you have why should you have a interest only mortgage versus a thing that people talk about that? And I said, well, one of the reasons is eroding interest. And they were like, what you on about? And I was like, well, eroding interest. I was like, if, what happens is as inflation increases, £100,000 now in 20 years is very different, is not the same equivalent to £100,000 in 20 years. So technically, if you get a mortgage, it might be around 20 grand in 20 years, 25 grand. So actually, by eroding interest, you could potentially be paying off your mortgage, even though you're not paying off your mortgage, because interest is eroding the value of that money. And they were like, And these are like brokers who've been doing it for many years. They were looked at me and they're like, what? I was like, yeah, I just did a video on it. Did you not see that? And they were like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's when I started to me, to be very honest with you, why I do this job now. That's when I realized how powerful making content was. That I was like, if I do something and you do it for a year and a half to 2 years every day, you change your life. You can become super smart at it. So if you want to be the best broker like that, most of you brokers probably don't even know what I'm all talking about with this. Like, and it's literally like, and it was, Craig's like, no, no, you will. So that's what an example though. That's when I realized just how powerful it can be, because you're the one broker that knows that. And if you're a buy-to-let investor, by the way, and someone walks in and I used to get quite a lot of buy-to-let business. I hate buy-to-let business, but like I'd get the business because if you've got someone and you say, well, this is one option, they'd be like, oh, I've never heard anyone tell me that before. And I was like, oh, well, that's and I got that because I listened to a podcast about the buy-to-lets and they were talking about it. And the guy was saying, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. I'll make a video on it, and did my research and did my video. And there you go. So you will become super smart. One of the best brokers you could be if you do that.
Ash, do you know what? I've taken up loads of your time.
We've got loads
today.
of time. I did.
I know I've taken a lot of time, but I really want to end on that amazing point and tip there right at the end of it, because that sort of wrapped everything together of everything we've talked about, and what you've sort of shared some really sort of great tips in terms of, and your thoughts and your journey of what you've experienced. I think, like they say, I've taken up absolute loads of your time today, but I've thoroughly enjoyed this podcast. I've learned a lot. I've actually thought a lot of things as well in terms of, from a broker's point of view, what brokers can be doing and trying to get them out of the comfort zone and various other things as well. So is there anything that we've not talked about that you wanted to talk about?
No, not at all, mate. Literally, like, that's it. I mean, if people want to work, if they want to learn more about what I've done and stuff, then you can go to my website, which is ashborland.com, which has the link to my podcast you mentioned at the beginning. And also my coaching consulting link to book a call. But other than that, no, mate, I've really enjoyed it. We've been very broker specific, which is what I wanted, to be fair. I did want to be broker specific because, again, editing your videos has fired me up. I'm like, oh, I remember that.
No, it has been broker specific, and that's been really good from that point of view. And to be fair, mate, yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think there's so much for people to take from listening to this today. And absolutely, it's hopefully it inspires and sort of drives people to think, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. We will put in all the links to you and all the stuff you do when this comes out. There'll be the links into YouTube and your podcast and all the things as well. So if you don't know who Ash is already, shame on you. But then fine, we'll give you one excuse. Go out there, have a look at what he's doing. Look how he's sort of changing, like say, the world of mortgage broking and dragging people through into the sort of the new world, shall we say, and the stuff he's doing with Dan that he's talked about and the other things as well, and the ecosystem and all the rest of it. So there is plenty of content out there for you to learn and take a lot of things from Ash and what he does, and the other people that work with Ash as well. So Ash, thank you so much, mate. I absolutely appreciate it today. Thank you very much for your time. And I'm hoping I can get you back on the podcast, not too soon, but we'll get you a regular spot on the podcast to then sort of share some more golden nuggets of inspiration and helping the mortgage brokers in their world. So Ash, thank you very much.
100%. Thank you so much for having me on.